Okay. So what do you think?
I needed more time. Sorry, I just did.
Well, that's how it always goes. You plan too much.
I'm hoping I got out of it what I wanted.
What were you wanting?
I wanted to see how, especially the reflection piece, on how they saw themselves, their strengths, and what they felt like they worked on based on what I've observed. And so I'm hoping that they had enough time to really think about that piece. So, and that they were honest with it. I could tell some were struggling.
Well, and that's why because we had more planned with that, and that's why I asked you if you thought they had enough information to even reflect.
And so I wanted to try it because I just wanted to see where they were based on the fact that we actually discussed a little bit more on from the chart. We discussed a lot more than I thought we probably would, which is fine. But so I hope that gave them what they needed to be able to give a reflection. I felt like some of them, when I walked around and looked, they were pretty honest with where they were. So,
and you were also wanting to, if I remember, take what you thought their strengths and weaknesses might be and compare them to what they thought theirs would be. Okay, so as we look at this, remind me what we're looking for. What were we wanting? I mean, we had the purpose statement up, and so what do you think we're looking for here?
Well, I want to see if there's a trend as far as, because I know I have some that really don't like to put themselves out there and discuss. It's really hard for them to do group work. And so I want to see if there are some strategies where they all feel like they're strong on, then I don't feel like I really need to spend quite as much time with teaching that piece, whereas some of the other ones I do. I think a lot of them have felt that they've been in a group where they've gotten nothing done, or somebody's been too bossy, and this is a group where that, depending on how they get grouped, that happens. And I tend to strategically group them, and I want to find ways where that's not so much the case, that you are working with everybody. At some point, you're going to work with everybody. And
was this the first time that they worked with these elbow buddies, or have they worked, not the first time, but have they been elbow buddies consistently for a while, or
no, I mix that up a lot. Because I feel like sometimes if I just have them in twos, that works pretty well. It's when they get to threes and the personalities.
Well, I was going to talk about that because when I was doing we had decided that I was going to go around and write quotes that I heard like I did last time, and I didn't have any negative quotes now, and I didn't know if that was because they knew that we were watching for those 7 strategies, or if it was because of a smaller group. So I was going to ask you what you thought about the difference in the number of negative comments.
I think it was smaller groups, and I was very strategic in how I put them together today because of what I wanted, and so I think that probably is why. But I think also it was the group that they were being observed too, because I have several of them that have extremely strong personalities and are very verbal, and they really had a game going on today. So, and that's okay, that's fine, because I know they can rein it in, but they tend to want to take over a group. So,
and do you think as we go through this, we'll always be strategically grouping them so they can practice the strategies, or do you think random grouping is going to fall in there?
I think for a while I want to start with strategic groupings, but then I want to mix it. I mean, by the end of the year, I want it to be pretty random. I'm looking more long-term.
Random or choice even, that they get to choose.
And I'm looking just more long-term of, what do they take away between now and the end of the year that they can use in 5th grade and in 6th grade. And then when I read that article, I didn't get to all of it, but it talked about, that a lot of the workplace jobs, it's collaborative. I mean, we as teachers, it's collaborative too. So
the chapter.
Exactly.
The chapter
in that book. And so I just see that that's something that they need to be strong in. And I talked to one of my kids and I said, so this more last night, I said, so what worked in groups and what didn't? He said, I didn't always like groups because I ended up doing the work anyway, so why can't I just work by myself? And I'm like, that's what I wanna change.
Mhm.
Is I wanna change that it really is truly collaborative. And I've been in groups where one person's done all the work and it's like, well, that's a big waste of time. And I don't want it to be that way, it shouldn't be that way, so that's my goal.
Okay, so I guess we can just start looking through this and seeing, do you have a plan in mind of how you think we might group it? And we can maybe move that out of the, do you wanna pair it with the half sheets, or do we wanna look at those later?
I think I wanna look at those later, I
Okay.
wanted to see.
Eddie,
And that's not how I see it.
mm-hmm,
But for him, when he says I do not talk, it depends on what we're talking about, because he has plenty to share. So,
and I wrote, one of the boys, I think it was Wyatt, when we were doing the, reflection, he had the reflection of one of his group members was really not engaged with science, and he was, and so that that person didn't really participate. And so I wrote down engagement as something we might want to explore with them too, about if that determines. And so that might be the same with Eddie with that.
it very much is, because with him, he reads like such a wide variety of texts and things, and has a real wide variety of interests, and so he very much is one who, if it's not engaging.
It might be topic, it might be task.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
See, and he was one, he said to somebody something different than that. And I agree with that. He does.
I mean, that is
he's
very
reflective.
reflective.
And when he says about, I don't like to talk in front of groups, if it's, again, it's the buy-in, because there are times when he said he isn't, I can't remember, somebody said something about Jason, but anyway, he has some really good insight into things, and he'll share, and it is outside the box sometimes for him, but this is true for him, that he does.
Yeah, he said that twice.
You always find with information, I could see that, and I have good manners and a nice, yeah, see, I feel like he's very reflective. Oh, thinking out of the box, and yeah.
And well, and I think that might be a misconception, because that's not really, reflecting and correcting. That might be, but I think that this one's tough.
I do too.
I mean, it's tough for adults.
He does. See, and that's what I see. He does love to collaborate. He likes to work in groups. That doesn't bother him one bit. And he's way honest about that, and that's true. He would talk all day, and that is true. So he was very reflective.
So maybe, okay, I know that you wanted to think about, compare what you think their strengths and weaknesses are. Do we maybe want to, I just feel like we need to organize it, maybe not organize it, but I don't really know what we're looking for. Do you know what we're looking for here?
I think what
Or how
maybe
we can sort, are we
maybe
looking for trends? Are we comparing it against you?
I'm looking for trends, but maybe I need to take my piece out and go with what they think, and then.
Or maybe we could just
tally
we can quickly write this down, and we could just tally which ones thought were positive and negative.
That's a
I
good
think we
idea.
need to have something that we look at, rather than, I don't know how to group them with this many columns. Do you want me to do it on the computer, or do you wanna just
Sure.
type it real quick?
You can do it on the computer, and then I can read them to you.
And I'll share this with you but we can both look at it right now.
Because if I were to kind of place bets, I'm almost thinking that a lot of them, it's going to be either speaking up or to share the air.
And why? Why do you
just-
think that?
I just feel like this is a class that I have either ors. don't necessarily have a lot of the middle.
I'm just,
sorry.
well, and I'm just paraphrasing, I'm not gonna
Okay.
list them all out.
I think that they would say that they're a pretty respectful group, and I think that most of them would say they show tolerance and respect. I think a lot of them are fairly reflective, so I'm wondering if that's not the two areas that we'll have to really work on, or the 2 or 3.
Okay, so I'm just going to, I'll read them and you can tell me if it's plus or minus, or how about I share this with you and we can just divide and conquer real quick.
Sounds good.
I just called it reflection data, we can change that later. Okay, it should be coming. And then do you wanna just put like an X if it's positive or negative?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Mhm.
That, okay. If you have a minus one, you can share computer screen. I'm just putting this out there, this is very awkward. Just throwing it out there. I feel like I have to say something.
I just directed the comments, so.
I'm not looking at comments. Right? Do you think we're gonna need to know who said what at some point?
I will definitely go back and look at it just because.
Well, and I think we can go back at, and create a table for that, like your sign says. When in doubt, make a table.
Yeah.
Lisa's motion.
Would we be able to tell from his? I have a question mark here, so I'm just gonna put that on the table. Oops, not that way. I'm just gonna put it as a question mark, so we know that we had a question mark there. Did you have any that had question marks? Were you putting your completed ones down here?
Yeah.
I may have just picked up your pile.
Are those still not?
Okay.
You could be right.
Well, if it was closer, I would say we probably need to do it again, but I think it was only a few and it's pretty clear. Or somewhat clear.
You have 8 people watching you and no one noticed that.
What do you think? Anything that jumps out at you?
The speaking up, which was one I figured would probably be one, because some kids are not comfortable doing that. And, I like that listening was one that they felt they were good at, because it's something that we try to work on about being an active listener, so that helps. The be responsible for the group is one that's interesting to me, just from the standpoint of there were more positives than negatives, but not by many.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the comments I noticed were, just interesting.
Do you think it's because they may not really understand what that is? Just the comments?
It could be, but I also know sometimes as I've seen them in groups, I do see one student pushing to get things done because maybe somebody isn't pulling their weight, and that's why I wanted to do this, because I really feel like they need to learn to carry out their assigned task or finish up
Right.
what they're supposed to do and do their part.
And I also
Not
think
let it
responsible
answer
is such a, I mean,
Mhm.
it's loaded. And
Mhm.
so maybe as we go more though, I keep thinking back to when Eddie was confused by that, and I thought maybe others might not really know what
Mhm.
being responsible to a group means.
Mhm.
Anything else from there?
The share the air, of course, because I do have some, and they admitted it when I read. They just said, I talk more than I should, or I don't listen.
But you have more that thought it was a positive strength. Do you agree with that?
No,
You do?
I don't.
And so, yeah, I would be interested to see what their comments are for if they thought that they were positive and share the air, because maybe you guys have different definitions of what that is.
Mhm.
I mean, this one, because it's grouped with encourage others, we listen and say it's a great idea. So
Mhm.
he's saying it's a positive because encouraging.
And he,
Maybe those should be, I mean, they put them together in the article.
well, and I wonder if he didn't take it instead of for himself, if he was thinking the group he was with. I hope that was clear about what you personally think about yourself. So that may be something I need to make sure that that's how they did it.
Yeah, this one, it's encouraging them
And a lot
to
of them are
speak
looking
and
at it to
share.
encourage,
Right,
yeah.
it's to encourage them to give their idea more so than, or maybe that's the same.
And like I said, I feel like this has a lot to do with the groups, because kids like Connor and Jason will, especially again, if it's an area that they're interested in, tend to dominate the whole, like when we did the picture the other day, and I had those Connor and Jason together, and it just didn't work for them because they both are really dominant personalities, and so they wouldn't let each other you know, they
Mhm.
struggle with taking turns and letting the other one have input, so.
Well, and also I think, I mean, he put it as a positive
Mhm.
because he says he doesn't talk.
Mhm.
And so, and I don't think that's share the air either,
No,
because you're not
You're
sharing
not
it, you're
sharing
not
at all.
using it.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay. So what are you thinking next steps might be looking at this, or is it telling you anything?
It is, because I think that what I would really, I think one of the first areas that I want to work on is probably the speak up area, because it was a negative, and I see that. I think some kids are not, they have things to share, but they're not maybe confident that, I don't know if they're not confident in their idea, or if they are concerned that somebody might not agree. I mean, if it's something, like I told you about our book yesterday, where we got to that one point, and they were all ticked off, which is fine, that's what I wanted them to be, and they were really frustrated because of what happened in the book. But they were all in agreement, and their opinion was basically the same, and their thoughts were running along the same lines. But if they don't agree, I want them to learn how to be okay, you know, that it's okay to not, it's okay to disagree, and, you know, but that will probably have to be combined with the show tolerance of, you know, you need to speak up, what you have to say is important, and it's okay that we don't agree. And so I almost think I may have to, I don't know, I may have to start actually with the tolerance piece first, and then the speak up.
Do you think that they have to be taught in isolation, or is
No.
it something that you can do all together?
I think some of them lend themselves to going together, but I think some will have to be, like, probably to be responsible where there are different things that you have to do for the group. To me, that would be, for this particular group of kids, that would be one I would probably do in isolation. But I think maybe the listening and the speaking up and the showing tolerance might be one that, you know, I'll have to do a little more looking. I just didn't have a chance to finish the article. So there were some really good things in there about the why piece that I think sometimes the kids, I wanna make sure that they understand why am I having you do this, and why are we really working on this, and why is it important? So, I feel like that probably I don't know, you almost could do share the air, the tolerance, speaking up and listening. I mean, we work a lot on the listening, but maybe those other three, the speaking up, the share the air, and the show tolerance would lend themselves to going together. I mean, just talking off the top of my head right now.
That's good. And so we had talked about before, we were even gonna do it today, but then we thought we'd run out of time, and we probably should have taken more out because we didn't do what we had planned. But we had talked about having the kids continue, and essentially brainstorm and work collaboratively to come up with this piece of what the strategy looks like and sounds like, and what it doesn't look like and sound like. Are you still thinking you wanna continue this?
I do, because I think that it means more if they have a tangible way to look at, I mean, that they can actually say, well, to be tolerant or to speak up, they would look like and sound like this. And I think that there will be a lot more, I want them to discuss it and then come up with it, because I just think that it gives them something to connect it to, you know. If they come up with, well, it should look like this, or it should sound like this. So I definitely wanna go, that's why I put that in the reflection piece back to you, that I want to do that.
Yeah, but we have these question marks here, and so how are we going to support some of the misconceptions that I think might come out of some of, if they are just free to do what does it look like, sound like, doesn't sound like, doesn't look like?
Oh, I think before I get to this, I would go back and clear up the misconceptions first. I feel like we need to finish the activity that we're doing right now and discuss it so that they've got some of those ideas, so that, because as I walked around and saw, some of them were, it was interesting where they were placing some of those strips.
Mhm.
So we need to go back and do the discussion piece to make sure that they're clear on.
Which we were gonna do today.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. And so, I feel like once they're clear and we make the book to go their flip chart book, I feel like then we can go back and we can talk a little bit more and brainstorm, and they can talk with their elder buddies and make sure the misconceptions are cleared up before we get to this piece, because with the question marks here, it makes me realize that they still didn't quite understand what that.
Well, and the share the air with
Mhm.
all of those positives.
And it was just, we ran out of time, and looking back, I would have taken a little more time and finished that piece and before we did this, but that's okay. I may go back to this then after. I may do this again, once we clarify more for them. I may go back. So once we finish this and do their flip book and have some conversations, I may actually go back to this and see if they're going to change any of these now that they understand, because we did have some that didn't quite understand. So I think I'll go back and let them take a look at it and give them some sticky notes or something, and I can add on to it.
I think that's a good idea, because then that can, we'll either see if we're moving more over to the positive, or if it's just clearing up some of those.
But I think before we can do the looks and sounds, like we've got to
Mhm.
do those things, and then we can get to that, the looks and sounds like, and then I definitely would start with these pieces, if that's what the second time around shows.
Okay. So, in thinking of tomorrow, because you're gonna finish up today what we didn't finish in there, we're gonna get started on the flip books.
Yes, today, and then
Mhm.
the rest I'll have to wait till after break,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Oh, you don't wanna get in and do something tomorrow?
we're
Half
still-
day?
I'm still pretty-
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah.
what, so what's gonna be our next? You're gonna finish flip book today, but I still don't know if you're gonna have enough time to really,
No, I think that probably this afternoon we'll be able to do the flip book, and I'll see if we can get far enough to try and clear up misconceptions.
okay,
And if we happen to, then if I have enough time, what I'd like to do is finish their activity they were doing, discuss it, and then make their flip book, and if we have time, I'll see if we have misconceptions cleared up and we can finish this. If not, I might finish this tomorrow, though, before they go on break, so I have it to look at over break. But that's really where I want to get, so that when we are back from break, I'm ready to start, probably a lesson with one of these, or with some of those.
and I'm thinking that maybe, to maybe pull out some of these misconceptions, is that we really need to start, we had them work collaboratively with the picture, we had them work collaboratively with the partners today, but that was one of our goals, that we were going to be doing all of this while they're working collaboratively. And so, we maybe need to be sitting down and starting to think of some of those collaborative structures that we can have them practice, where then we can just say, today when you work collaboratively, we're really gonna be focusing on the speaking up part, and so here are some things that can help you. I'm thinking aloud too now, but I don't know if that's something that we need to sit down and.
That plus I'm thinking modeling. I think some of the kids I just have that are so quiet, and maybe modeling how we can encourage them to speak up too, so.
Maybe have the kids model for each other, like in a fishbowl or something too, if it was a strength. Cause I don't wanna like do the opposite instruction to teach this type of, so I wanna kinda teach them through collaboration.
Exactly.
But I don't know how to do that.
Well,
I'm sure it's out there. I found this, and it's the first 20 days, and I know that we're not in the first 20 days, but it goes through some of the different strategies that we were talking about too. And so I printed this off for you for break, so that we can start thinking about, it gives some structures, and it talks about, and I thought we could do some of these as we're teaching some of those strategies. And maybe go through and see which one lends itself more to supporting your views and findings and finding.
Yeah.
So, I'll give that to you.
Okay.
So let's talk about, because we're running out of time, when do you want to meet again?
Whenever it fits into your schedule.
Do we want to include, do we want to just do Monday when we get back from break during your collaboration with Tirza and Nicole?
Okay.
And catch them up on, because we kind of left them up this week because we were trying to get going, but I know that they're jumping along with us, so.
Yeah.
So do we want to do Monday?
Yeah.
And then what do you want to have, what do you want us to have to come to the table with?
Depending on how things go this afternoon and possibly tomorrow morning, I can go ahead and, do you want me to do a different chart? Do you want me to change this one? Because I
Well,
can
if you don't
take
like
what
it, you
they-
can change it.
No, change the results, or should I do a different one and see after they understand more?
What do you think would be most helpful to what we're trying to do?
I'm thinking that I should just fill in after we redo.
Fill into that chart?
Just delete these and see if I have different results based on better understanding this afternoon.
Do you think there would be power if we put like the date here and then we created another one with
Well, that's what I
another
was
date?
wondering.
Instead of erasing what we have?
I think so, to see if there really is any change, because maybe there won't be. So.
Maybe there will be.
Could be.
Okay, yeah,
I
and
think that's a good idea.
we can
so
make that,
date-
we can make that
and
more
then I can fill that in.
user friendly,
And
okay.
then- No, I mean, it.
Well,
makes
and if you're
sense.
planning on giving this multiple times, we can just date it and we can look at it over time. And that could be a way to document what we're doing too.
So I think then this afternoon, I'll let them finish that activity and we'll discuss, and then depending on our time.
You're gonna have them
today
do
or
it,
tomorrow, I think I'll try and get this finished up before break, so that I have the information.
you're gonna do it again before break.
I'm gonna try to,
Okay.
yeah, I'll have some time tomorrow before we do our house celebration, so.
Okay.
So then I'll have that information that I can share with you then, and we can look at it. But then I'll read this, and I wanted to finish.
So do you wanna touch base really quickly tomorrow during your lunch and just tell me, and we can
Sure.
clarify what we need to bring to the table on Monday?
Yeah.
Okay,
That sounds good, and then I'll read this one too.
well, and I don't want you to have to read your whole spring break, I had just come across that and I know that we were talking about it, so I made a copy and then I just have these things that have different structures in them that we can start thinking about the questioning aspect of it and give the kids practice in the structure of collaborating. Okay,
That's good.
anything else for the good of the cause?
I don't think so. Thanks, though, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I told Nicole this morning, I said, I like Patsy's question, and she goes, yeah, she makes you think. And I'm like, oh, it's not that I
Could you
don't-
say that louder?
I don't, it's not that I don't think, it's just I was thinking a lot deeper, so that was good. Thank you.
Yes, and I'll give you these and then we can use them later too if we need to. All right,
Sounds good,
thanks, Deb.
thank you.
Thank you.